This is Dudes Who Bet Sports. Dudes Who Bet Sports, it's your favorite show. Dudes Who Bet Sports, where degenerates go. Dudes Who Bet Sports, time to change your approach with Aaron Haldeman and his father, the coach. Let's ride.
Well, the Associated Press is full of shit.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Dudes Who Bet Sports, and college football officially back. Papa Dude, I know we had some last weekend, but they weren't very good games. We had the Travers going on for everybody in the horse racing industry. Kind of a little bit of a distraction. No distractions this weekend. It's back. Are you excited for the show?
Sure. I love talking college football and pro football too. Won't be long until we go until two shows a week.
Yep.
And so, sure. And it's a decent slate this week. I mean, we have our share of dogs, as we usually do. I don't know if there's as many big time games as there have been on opening weekend, but there's still some feature ones that are going to be really interesting to watch.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a really good opening weekend. Like I said, after a first, taste of not much there, kind of some boring games, but this is a good one. This is a really good weekend to start. You're right. We'll get to the point where we'll have to do two shows once both the NFL and college football gets going. If you kind of are new to our show and maybe you picked us up during the Saratoga season or the Triple Crown season, during football, this is mostly a football show. We'll talk, the big time horse races throughout the next 3 or 4 months. But this is a college football and NFL show today. Only college football. Of course, NFL will be next week where we'll do both. So a lot to talk about each and every week on this. And that's why, like I say, we extend to 2 shows and we go through. And what we'll do is go through all the top 25 games for college football, and then Papa Dude will have a few more that he'll select out of that group as well that's not in the top 25 that he wants to talk about. Then we'll do every NFL game as well. So we cover it in depth. We cover it from a gambler's perspective. So if you are new to our show, that's how this is going to go for the next few months. So with that being said, are you ready to kick us off?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So what I do every week, I just put the games up on the screen. We go through the top 25 just like this. And like I said, at the end, Papa Dude will bring up a few other outside of the top 25. But let's kick it off. Thursday night will be the first real games of the season. Florida and Utah will kick us off Thursday night. There's a bunch of games, but this is the one with a ranked opponent there. Florida beat Utah last year 29-26 in the Swamp. A game that we thought Florida would launch them to a big season for new coach Billy Napier. It didn't happen. They went 6-7. They really struggled the rest of the season. Utah lost that game, comes back, wins the Pac-12. Utah 4.5-point favorite now for the return game there in Salt Lake City. All right, Papa Dude, where are you going?
I wasn't real surprised last year. Utah I don't recall them playing a SEC team like Florida's stature, even though they're not the Florida of old, and they had to go to the Swamp. I think they outplayed them, if I recall, in that game, and they just lost.
Yep.
This is a different animal this time. When you got to go to Salt Lake City and play the Utes at their home field, it's tough. And they're loaded. Their quarterback's back. Offensively, they're very, very good. Florida is an SEC school, so they're going to have talent. Breaking in a new quarterback on the road against a team that's looking for them. I think 4.5 is way too small. I think Utah beats them by more than that.
Give me the Utes in here as well. I think there's a pretty good team coming back this year. Cameron Rising back at quarterback for Utah again, and I think this is going to be just like last year. They were a tough bunch last year. I think they're going to be a tough bunch this year. And Mike took it right out of my mouth. 9 players back on defense for Utes defense. It was pretty darn good last season. I like Utah a lot in this game. You mentioned Florida. Graham Mertz going to, I think, get the start for Florida. We'll see at game time. He was a starting quarterback for Wisconsin, team that's had offensive woes. So I'm not sure that's a good thing. Yeah, I'm with you. I've got the Utes all the way in this one.
You got to ask yourself, how could Florida not have a quarterback?
The weird thing about it, most of last year, I didn't think they had a quarterback. And their quarterback got drafted in the top 10. So I don't know.
I don't either. And, they haven't had one in a while, and that's why they've dropped off. I guess Tebow's the last one, I guess. They haven't had a stud since him.
Off the top of my head, Yes. With the thought that I could be missing. It seems like they had one that was decent.
Decent.
Kyle Trask is who I'm thinking of.
Okay, yeah, he was pretty good, and they were pretty good too.
They were good when he was good.
That's
yeah.
right. And so that pretty much is their problem. The thing about Utah too, real quick, they've always been known for their defense and how tough they are and physical they are, but their offense is really, really good. Probably the best offense they've ever had too. So they got a great offense to go with that toughness. And if they can win a couple of games on the road, their big Pac-12 schedule is pretty tough. Got a couple of tough road games. If they can win those, they're going to be right there.
Yeah, the phrase hard-nosed really comes to mind when you think about Utah, even on offense. Even that they are a good offense, but they're also, you think, boy, they're tough, man. They run right at you. They try to run over you. They hit you. So I'm with you. I'm hyping up the Utes pretty big here. So Florida will probably beat them week 1, just like last year when I was hyping up the Utes kind of big and they lost. So, all right, let's get to it. We won't have to spend a lot of time on a couple of these here.
Right.
East Carolina and Michigan. I mean, spreads 36. We talk about these games a lot. There's really not much you can learn here. The one thing I want to ask you about Michigan, they've kind of got some internal issues. I don't know if that's going to affect their play, but it is kind of a, they've got some PR problems, let's say, with some trouble. What do you think about this Michigan team this year?
Well, I think they're really good if they can overcome that. And it's kind of silly this, I think, what Harbaugh's done. I don't get what the punishment is quite so much about, but
I don't either.
No, it's kind of fishy. But anyway, their early season schedule is terrible.
Yeah.
And I think he suspended the first 4 games, and a lot of guys could win those first 4 games with Michigan's talent. East Carolina, they usually can put some points on the board. 36 is a bunch, but I generally stay totally away from these type of games because you just don't know. Michigan could get out 52-0 and then don't play anybody the last part of the game, and East Carolina sneaks through the back door and makes it and beats you. They end up 52-21 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So these games are tough to bet.
Michigan is set up to have a great season again. I mean, they got everybody back. I just think it's like, okay, let's get through this first part of it. Yeah. Bygones will be bygones by the time we get to the meat of that schedule, and just hope that it doesn't kind of throw the chemistry maybe off of the team, or maybe that's not even the right word, just kind of the mojo. And I don't think it will because of what you said. I think you and I could go take over head coaching duties and win these first 4 games. Because
and Harbaugh usually keeps his teams together. That's one thing about him. They're pretty even keeled. Michigan is. They don't surprise you too much.
Kind of more of a season preview there on Michigan than breaking down this game. There isn't anything to break down. You're right. It's just going to be the situation of the game. Does it dictate Michigan covering or not? They've got the talent to cover that for sure. All right, let's go. Virginia and Tennessee. Tennessee's very interesting to me this year. They were the darlings last year. They were a hell of a lot of fun, without any doubt. A prolific offense, and kind of snuck up, was able to beat Alabama amongst other teams that maybe at the beginning of the year you didn't think they would. They are replacing a lot on that offense. 7 back from a defense that was okay, not great. They're 28-point favorites to kick it off here at home against Virginia. What do you think of the Volunteers?
I think they could get off to a little shaky start. I do. I think they might be a little overhyped, but they're just 12, so a lot of people are kind of thinking the same thing. They had a shot to make the Final Four last year and blew it.
Yeah.
And the question is, was that kind of lightning in a bottle, or are they really that good? And are they overhyped this year? Expectations too high. So I just don't think Virginia's any good. And if they were a little better, I would take Virginia plus the 28 because I think Tennessee could struggle a little bit, but I don't think Virginia's good enough to risk it.
Yeah, Virginia 3-7 last year. Tony Elliott's second year there. I don't see a ton of talent on the team. I also misspoke. The game is in Nashville, Tennessee. I mean, it's basically a home game, but it is in Nashville. I think Tennessee covers this one because of the opponent. I'm not high on Virginia this year, not high on Tony Elliott. So we'll see. Give me the Volunteers. Let's move on to a team that I think is going to be very, very interesting this season. TCU. Last year, of course, played for the national championship. If you want to call it that, it was not pretty. But they got there, and you got to give him credit for that. They're number 17 this year because they lost everybody, and they open up with Colorado, Deion Sanders. So it's at TCU. TCU got it done last year out in Colorado. 20.5-point favorites here for the Horned Frogs. This is an interesting game to me. What do you think about this one?
Well, we wouldn't even be talking about it much if Deion wasn't the coach of Colorado. And
right.
He has caused a stir out there, which is exactly what Colorado was hoping for when they hired him. The turnover from the spring, he got rid of I don't know how many guys in the spring, which, could be good, could be bad. It's a sign that Deion is not afraid to do something. And he didn't like the roster, so he says, get out of here. So anyway, who knows what to expect out of Colorado? Is he a coach or is he just kind of a figurehead? I don't know. We're going to find out. TCU went through the portal and reloaded. They do have a good quarterback who actually was the starter in the first of the season last year and got hurt. So he beat out Max Duggan, who had a tremendous year. So this kid is good. The starting quarterback is. The game's in Fort Worth. I think because of Sanders, TCU is going to be ready. I think they cover.
I think TCU is going to cover as well. I think Chandler Morris is going to be a guy we're going to talk about a lot this season for TCU. I think he's pretty similar to what they had in Max Duggan, and like I said, he actually beat Max Duggan out before Chandler got hurt. You're right. I think they loaded up in the portal. Chemistry going to be a problem, I'm sure, because you got a lot of guys from a lot of different places. But if they've got talent and the quarterback can kind of come through for them, they've got a schedule where they can win a lot of games. I'm not saying win 13 and go to the national championship, but they could win 8 or 9.
You bet.
They should be further ahead than Colorado. I mean, you look at this Colorado team. You never heard a lot of these guys.
No.
I mean, he's got, like I say, he's got a lot of new guys.
And they were god awful last year.
Yes, I'm leaning Tennessee. I'm leaning TCU here. Like I said, TCU won 38-13 last year in Colorado. I think Deion's going to need some time, and I think this is a really tough game to start off with. So.
I would say if he wins 3 games this year, he's done a pretty good job.
Yeah, I mean, this is a total overhaul. This is a team that went 1-11 last year, 4-8 the year before that. I mean, they just not been very good for a long time. All right, let's move on. Oklahoma and Arkansas State, another one that should be lopsided, 35.5 point favorite for the Sooners. And a pivotal season for Oklahoma. They must improve this year or they're going to be in a lot of trouble next year going to the SEC. All right, what do you think?
Well, again, it's a lot of points. They should cover this. We looked at Arkansas State, and they don't have much coming back, and they didn't have a good year last year either. I don't know. You usually place pretty well in the opening games. They should cover. I don't know, because their defense has been so bad. It's hard to cover 35.5 points when you give up a bunch. So we're going to see. I don't think we'll find out anything Saturday about the Oklahoma defense. That's the key to the OU season. If their defense is better, they'll have a good year. I really believe that, but we don't know yet.
They absolutely should have a good year if the defense is better, because the offense looks very good. I think it's one of their best offensive lines they've had in a while. I think they're very deep at running back. I think receiver / tight end, I don't think you got stars, but I think they've got good players that can definitely get open in this conference. Dylan Gabriel as a Big 12 quarterback is okay. He's not a problem. But it's a defense. I think they cover this, honestly, though. If you remember last year when this defense matched up against teams that were slow or slower, no team is slow at this level, but slower than the elite teams. Their defense was really good. If you remember the UTEP game, they gave up 13 points. They played Kent State. They gave up 3. They went to Nebraska and they gave up 14. The 3 things that all those teams had in common, they didn't have speed. And our linebackers looked great. And then we got against teams that could run. And all of a sudden, you found out real quick we were very slow. So I think that's going to be the key to the season, the defense. I think they'll cover this because I think they'll have the speed. And I think, I think really like they've got guys that are sound. They just don't have a lot of talent. Hopefully, he's been able to get some more. So I think they cover. I think, and I'm not I'm a huge OU fan, but I'm very pessimistic about the season. But I think this game they'll look strong. We'll see. We'll see if the defense is better. I think it's going to be a much better year. And if it's not any better, it's going to be pretty similar to last year.
The same.
Yep. All right, Utah State and Iowa. There you go. The Hawkeyes are ranked. I can't believe it. Hawkeyes at ranked 25th. All right, they're playing Utah State. 23.5 is the spread. Last year, Papa Dude, they would have had to shut them out for sure, Utah State, because there's no way they could get to 24.
Yeah.
How are the Hawkeyes? Are they going to be better? I mean, we've got a new quarterback. They've got Cade McNamara. What are the Hawkeyes going to look like?
Well, Cade McNamara has played well at Michigan. He's won ball games at Michigan, and then J.J. McCarthy just came along and was a little bit more of a dual threat and beat him out. But Michigan won a lot of games with Cade McNamara. So that is a 100% improvement in the Iowa offense.
Yep.
Is it enough? I don't know. They always struggle with these kind of games. And these opening games, year in and year out, they don't cover.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they covered this either. Utah State has been okay. They've won some games and had winning records the last few years. I don't know. Maybe they've lost some people. I'm going Utah State plus 23.5.
You're going Utah State plus 23.5. I'm going Utah State plus 23.5. Mike says never lay a low number, or never lay a number, I should say, with Iowa meeting a high point spread.
Yeah.
Mark chiming in saying the same thing. Don't take minus 23.5 with Iowa ever. I'm with you guys. Yeah, I'll go Utah State plus 23.5 here. We'll see. Maybe Iowa's a little better. But boy, if you remember last year, the first game against South Dakota State, they won 7-3. They played Iowa State and they lost 10-7. I mean, this was a rough team for most of the season offensively. So
no offense whatsoever.
No. All right, two games where they're playing FCS schools here. Talking about number 22 Ole Miss taking on Mercer, and Oregon at number 15 in the country taking on Portland State. Nothing to really talk about here. You're not as high on Ole Miss though, right? As some.
No, and I'll tell you why. I'm trying to find it here. It's the schedule.
Yeah, it's tough.
Schedule is brutal. I read the other day where their schedule's the worst. It's the hardest in the country. They got the worst, the toughest schedule in the country, and I don't think they're that good anyway. Here's their schedule, and it's really tough. They got to go to Tulane next week. I'm telling you, that's going to be a tough game.
Really tough game.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. Then they go to Georgia Tech. Then they're at Alabama, followed by LSU. Now that's in Oxford, but
but that's
it's what it is.
Yeah.
Then they got a pivotal game with Arkansas, and Arkansas always plays them close. That'll be a tough game. Then they got to go to Auburn. They can lose that game. They're not that much better than Auburn.
Right.
They have to go to Georgia. They have to go to Mississippi State. Those are all tough games, and they got Texas A&M at home. Who knows what A&M's going to be? I just don't see them coming through that much better than 7-5. I just don't.
I'm with you on it. I think that's a really, really tough setup for them. But they better beat Mercer. That's for sure.
Well, come on.
I like Oregon. Don't have to talk about the game here, but I do like Oregon this year. I think they're going to be pretty good. By the way, Rob says he's going Utah State as well. So I'm sure Iowa will have an offensive explosion after all this talk, but I just don't see it. All right, let's go back to another. I say equal footing, not quite, but at least they're from the same conferences, these two teams. Ohio State on the road, breaking in a new quarterback at Indiana. Indiana is a place sometimes you go and you might struggle for a quarter or two, but Ohio State minus 30. What do you think about the Buckeyes and Indiana?
Well, Ohio State couldn't name a quarterback coming out of the spring. Okay, they didn't name a starter.
Correct.
Okay, that's an issue. And I haven't read a whole bunch about them. I guess they've found somebody. I'm with you, Rob. I think Indiana covers that. Or beats that spread. I can see Ohio State struggling. If Oklahoma was going in there with no quarterback or somebody that wasn't really good, I would be scared to death of winning the game, much less by 30. I would think it was going to be a tough game, and I'll be surprised if it wouldn't. I agree with you, Mike. I think Ohio State is overrated. I do.
They lost an awful lot of talented players. And Rob going Indiana plus 30. Mike thinking Indiana we might cover this one as well here. They did lose a lot of talented players, including quarterback CJ Stroud. And you're right. I mean, that is never a good sign when you cannot name a quarterback. And,
No.
and we have been around quarterback battles at Oklahoma in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always been, if they name that starter 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before, the first press conference, let's say, we're like this week, basically opening week, that quarterback has always stuck and done really well and been really good. And when they've waited till that last week, and maybe on the Tuesday before the game, the coach announces who's going to be the starter, it's never really worked out. You think about that.
Well, no.
I remember when they named Trevor Knight the starter over Blake Bell, and we were like, oh, we don't have a quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Like, this isn't good.
Yeah.
And that's happened at times. And I think you're right. I think they're going to struggle at quarterback, no doubt.
I do too. And you know what? It hasn't happened very often at OU.
No,
they usually have somebody, and you can say the same thing about Ohio State. When's the last time they went into a season and it's kind of sketchy?
And the whole, hey, we're going to play two, that's never a good sign either.
Nope. That means really they don't have one.
And if you remember, I remember, and this is back, people are not going to remember this, but you are, when Nate Hibble and Jason White were competing to succeed Josh Heupel in 2001, that went down to the wire. And as it turned out, Nate Hibble wasn't very good. Jason White was good, but just wasn't. He was still a little young. He wasn't quite ready. And by midseason, he was the guy. He was playing really well, and he got hurt. Of course, Hibble had to come back in. But the point of it was the guy OU named that year wasn't very good. And the same thing happened with Trevor Knight. So
and I'm not a Ryan Day fan either. So here's the thing: if they're a little down offensively, and we're kind of guessing they are, their defense is terrible. It is not very good. And unless that's improved, I'm sure Indiana is not very good, but it's opening game.
Yeah.
They just hang in there for a half or so and end up covering that 30 points.
I think the big key is going to be that game at Notre Dame on September 23rd for Ohio State. I mean, they got Indiana, Youngstown State, Western Kentucky. I mean, no offense to those three schools. They're probably not going to beat them, even if the quarterback's not very good. Right. You better have a decent one going into Notre Dame, because here's the deal. Notre Dame has a good quarterback for the first time in a while. Steve Hartman's a stud, and we're going to have fun talking about him all season long. Yeah. So that's going to be a fun game. We've got that one circled already. Let's move on, though. This is not the Ohio State show. Let's move on. This game, I think you're going to be excited for. I'm talking like the people watching and you, Papa Dude. Boise State goes on the road to take on Washington. Of course, Boise been known to upset teams here. Washington really good, though. Number 10 in the country. Good season last year. Michael Penix back again this season. 14-point favorite, though, Papa Dude. What do you think?
I'd be a little bit scared if I was Washington. I would. Yeah, Boise's not going to be afraid of them. The question is, they're not the Boise of old. They rallied last year and came back and had they're not your 11-1, 12-0 Boise teams like they used to be, and that's my reservation going into this. However, I'm never high on Washington either. So it's 14. That's reasonable. If Washington's any good, they should cover that. I mean, if they're number 10 in the country, you got to think they're 14 points better than Boise. But if I was forced to bet it, I'd take the Broncos plus 14 if I was forced to bet it.
Yeah, I think it's a real toss. I'm going to stay away from the game. Last year they beat last year Oregon State beat Boise State 34-17, first game of the season. So that's similar-ish. I think Washington's a little better. I also think Boise will be a little better start of this year than they were last year. I'm staying away from it because
me too.
It's right there on the line. And if we sit on here next week and we're talking about the recap in this game, and Boise lost the game, Washington lost the game, I wouldn't be that surprised, would you?
No. But there's other stuff you can find to bet that's better.
There's a ton of games, and we're going to go through more right now. Texas and Rice. We're not going to learn anything about Texas this week. It's all about next week for the Longhorns when they travel to Alabama. I mean, do you have anything else to add about that one? Not much to say there.
It's their annual game with the Owls.
Yeah.
And so, it'll be a slaughter.
It's as bad as you want it to be, basically. Yeah. Okay, let's talk. We don't need to talk about the game because Tennessee State goes to Notre Dame this weekend, and that's a nothing burger of a game. But we talked about it real quick, or we mentioned him. The Sam Hartman for Notre Dame. They look very good against Navy. Notre Dame was not a bad team last year, but they very much struggled at quarterback. This guy's not going to struggle. This guy is a star. What are the expectations for Notre Dame? I know it was just 1 week, but I don't really think the score matters. It's just that Sam Hartman looked good.
He looked good, and they look good in all phases of the game. Yeah, I know it's Navy, and Notre Dame beat them like they should, but you know what? They don't beat Navy like that every year. And, of course, it's basically a home game over in Dublin, Ireland. I don't know if he saw any of the crowd, but it was pretty cool how many Notre Dame people were over there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I thought they looked as good as any Notre Dame team I have seen in a long, as Mike says, in a long time. And they need that leader at quarterback. And I love this guy. And this is a deal where I think the transfer portal was a good thing. And, if you're a Wake Forest fan, I'm sure you're upset that he left. But Sam Hartman is a winner. And he knew at Wake Forest he couldn't get to the championship game. He just couldn't. So he surveyed his options, and he ended up at a place where you can win national championships. It looked like he'd been there forever, the way he played. Now, I know it's Navy. You can't go by that. You're not going to learn anything this week either. Yeah. But they did look good.
Yep. I know. I thought they were really good. I didn't get to see it live. I was at the Travers, but watched a lot of highlights. I was like, man, they look smooth. I'm kind of excited to see what Sam Hartman does. I'm by no means a Notre Dame fan, but I am a Sam Hartman fan.
Me too.
I mean, I'm pretty excited to see what he could do. Okay.
And Aaron, also, they've got the schedule. I mean, it's Notre Dame anyway, but listen, they got the schedule. If they win these games, I mean, Ohio State, USC, Clemson, those are three powerhouses right there. They win all three of those, they're going to be in the playoffs unless they just do something stupid.
They've got a shot in those games. This is the first Notre Dame team I've looked at. Well, I shouldn't say that. They've been good. This is the best Notre Dame team I've looked at in a while. Is kind of what I think about this.
Yeah, again, don't overreact too much. It was Navy, but they handled them like they should.
Right, and again, we're like that. September 23rd game. That's what we'll find out.
That'll be the one,
right? So we'll see. Okay, this is another quarterback I'm excited about. Yeah. This is another team I'm excited about. Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. I think that's a really good fit for Luke Fickell, number one. Number two, he goes out and get Tanner Mordecai, guy we know very well. He was recruited and played a little bit at Oklahoma, was buried in the depth chart, transferred to SMU. Great success at SMU. Talking about Tanner Mordecai, the transfer quarterback. Now he's at Wisconsin. They got a lot of people back. This team has been underachieving. I think they're going to be pretty good. 28-point favorites against Buffalo. What are your thoughts on Wisconsin?
Yeah, I'm very, very high on them. No knock on the Wisconsin coach that was there. Yeah. But Luke Fickell is an improvement over that. And guess what? He would be an improvement over a hell of a lot of coaches in college football. That's how high I have him rated on my radar. And Wisconsin stole him. I mean, they got him. And I think he's gonna make a lot of noise. They not only got Mordecai, they got an offensive coordinator from North Carolina.
Yep.
You install an up-tempo attack that Wisconsin has never seen before.
Yep.
And if Mordecai can make this work, they're still going to be able to run the ball. I think this team has got a real shot. And when you look at their schedule, that's the key for them. Yeah. They've got a real tricky game next week out in Pullman against the Cougars from Washington State.
I think right there, that's a game. If you're good, you go win that game.
You win it, but it's not going to be easy. They got to go to Purdue. That's tough. But then, if they should win. If they're as good as we say they are, they should beat Purdue.
Yeah.
But you listen to this. They got Rutgers. They got Iowa in Madison. They got to go to Illinois. Whoop-de-doo. They got Ohio State at home. That's a key game. Got to go to Indiana. They got Northwestern at home. Nebraska's at home. They close up with Minnesota. Who's missing off the schedule? They don't play Michigan, and they don't play Penn State. Yep. They don't play Michigan State. That schedule, just having Michigan off there and Penn State off there makes them dangerous if they can mesh all this together. We'll find out. They should slaughter Buffalo if they're as good as we think they are.
Yeah, and like Kevin B. is talking about, they're going to air it out. They do have Braylon Allen, a guy, a very, very good running back and a big offensive line. So I think they run the ball pretty well as well. I'm just what you kind of said with Sam Hartman, and I think it applies to Tanner Mordecai. As much as the transfer portal does just kind of cloudy your picture until you play 2 or 3 games, it is good that you see these guys and now they're at bigger schools getting that chance. And I think people are going to talk about Tanner Mordecai a lot. I think he is a really, really good player. Yeah. So,
OU had him and the kid at TCU on the roster at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. And Spencer Rattler.
And Rattler. There's 3 guys that transferred. That's right.
Yep. So, I mean, yeah, it's pretty impressive what he was able to recruit there at Oklahoma quarterback-wise.
Yeah.
UT Martin and Georgia. I'm sure UT Martin's the pick here, right?
Oh, yeah. They got a big chance to come in there. Again, I've said this a million times, and I know these schools do it for the money. Georgia's probably paying them $1 million to come in there and get beat 75-0.
Yeah.
I just say if you're a program at that level and you're fodder for these schools, you're not serious about being a great team. You don't go play Georgia.
Good luck to UT Martin. That's not going to be a fun game for them at all. Georgia will roll there. USC, they get a win. They're 1-0 as they beat San Jose State. Media already on the defense at their USC, and I think for Lincoln Riley veterans like ourselves, I mean that was a pretty normal game for them to win 56-28. They got Nevada coming in here. Nevada was not good last year. I bet you 2 things. I bet USC holds Nevada under 2 touchdowns, and I bet they cover the spread.
I do too.
Because I've seen this before.
Yeah.
The first game happens and everybody goes nuts and they really, really prepare and they really, really get ready and they'll play great and everybody will go, they've got their issues fixed.
Yeah.
And it'll be that way until they play a real offense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, go ahead. What's your thoughts?
Oh, I agree. Totally. I don't have anything to add. I think this one's a blowout for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've seen this movie so many times, right? Oh, and everything will go smoothly until, like I said, they play somebody with a pulse again, and then that's it. So, look, and Mark says, hey, San Jose has a good passing game. Nevada does not. That's a big key at OU. It was always a big key. If those teams couldn't throw, they could always shut them down. So, I think everybody will say, oh, they've improved. Trust me, they haven't. Just wait. All right, Southeast Missouri State and Kansas State. The Wildcats looking to build off a Big 12 championship last year. Again, the K-State wins this one easily, I'm sure. But what do you think of the Wildcats this year?
Well,
same as always.
Yeah, I think so. Very well coached. Hard to beat. They don't beat themselves. You've got to beat them. And the really good teams usually do. And it seems like along the way they'll upset somebody, quote unquote, Oklahoma, but then they'll lose to somebody they shouldn't. And it's basically they're not great. They're not overly talented. And sometimes you get upset by a team that you're just not quite ready for, and you can't overwhelm them with your talent. So I think they're going to have a good year. I don't know how good, but 8, 9 wins again for the Wildcats probably.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And by the way, it is eerie how similar USC was like that old Oklahoma teams under Riley. I mean, immediately they became that. It was like, this is crazy how similar. And then you look at like the schedules are similar, where it's like, yeah, they're in the Pac-12, they don't play anybody. Big 12, when Riley was there, it's like, yeah, they don't really play anybody. It's weird. Anyway, let's go on. Yep. New Mexico and Texas A&M. New Mexico goes to a College Station here for this one. You mentioned you're not really sure what A&M's going to be. I don't know. They should be better offensively. I guess I'll believe it when I see it. 38-point favorites here. They've got everybody back basically, but it was a team that wasn't great. Obviously, went 5-7. What do you think of the Aggies this year?
Well, again, I don't know. know. They still are ranked, which is surprising to me that they're ranked after 5-7, and they haven't been too good. And it had that one good year. What was the COVID year? I think they were pretty good. I think there's chaos at times down there. They're always overrated. I'm going to take New Mexico plus 38. I think that's too many points, and New Mexico's awful. But I don't know how good Texas A&M is offensively.
We'll see. Bobby Petrino goes there. We'll see what happens. He said he was going to be at Missouri State forever, Papa Dude, and then
anybody believe that was crazy. So
anyway, had to get a little dig there in Missouri State.
By the way, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but the new head coach is kin to Petrino, and the offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator, one of them I think both of them were kin to him. So the head coach and the two coordinators he brought him in, and they're relatives of his, so they didn't change too much. Unfortunately, they lost the best coach of the four, I think.
Right. I would definitely agree with that. So we'll see. They score everywhere he goes, so we'll see if he can get some points on the board at A&M. All right, Middle Tennessee and Alabama here. Alabama opens it up here. 39-point favorites. I think Alabama, when you look at them, you look at this, or you talk about the same kind of stuff that with Ohio State. It's like, do they have a quarterback? In the not recent past, but in the way past 10, 12 years ago, Alabama not having a quarterback really wasn't that big a deal.
Right.
Now with the way their defense is, I think it is a big deal. What do you think of Alabama?
I totally agree with you. Again, they came out of the spring, didn't have a starter, and then they brought in someone from Notre Dame, which tells you even more. They were pretty worried that after the spring, you're bringing in another quarterback. I don't care what they say. That's not usually what Alabama does. But you're absolutely right. They used to not have real good quarterbacks. They managed the game. It didn't beat them. That was back in the days when the SEC didn't throw the ball around like they do now. And Alabama's defense could just shut your ass down. They can't do that anymore because Mississippi can throw it. Arkansas can throw it. LSU can. All of them can. It used to be a rushing type league, and it's changed. So I don't think I could see them maybe slipping just a tad this year. 39, you can't bet that game. Who knows?
Yeah, Kevin B kind of alluding that, Saban didn't even have a depth chart out, and that kind of does tell you I don't think he likes his team very well. I agree with that. And Mark kind of alluding to what you said, they're going to have to get back to a little bit of a ground and pound style. The last couple of years has been wide open, and it's great. Bryce Young did a great job, but they also couldn't stop anybody. So that's a problem. I know this. If the Milroe kid is the quarterback, it ain't gonna work. I mean, I saw enough of him last year.
Was he the one that came in when Young got hurt at Arkansas?
Yep.
He's totally one-dimensional.
Yeah, it's not gonna work. It's just not. No. And he played against A&M, and they almost got beat. So,
yeah. It's going to be interesting with Saban, and he's getting up there in age, and this NIL and transfer portal and all that stuff, it could drive him out of it. I could see him saying, "I'm tired of this."
I'm kind of waiting for that to happen. I'm with you. I kind of think that might happen, but we'll see. He definitely, I don't think he likes the current setup of what's happening. So. No. All right. I do think they win, but we'll see. 39, I'm not sure. West Virginia going on the road to take on Penn State. Now, Penn State is a team that's pretty heavily hyped this season. Got a lot of guys back from a team that went 11-2 last year. They did lose the quarterback, though, but pretty good replacement. Hopefully, maybe we'll see 20.5-point favorites against West Virginia. What do you think of Penn State?
I like them a lot, but a lot depends on this new quarterback who they are raving about.
Yes.
Say he's the guy.
Yep.
But he hadn't played, so we don't know. 20.5 is a lot. I don't think West Virginia is very good. The game's at Penn State. I wouldn't be surprised if they struggle a little bit and then pull away late. I'm going to stay away from this because I'm a little bit scared. This guy's first game and everything. You know, they say he's a massive upgrade, Kevin, but he hasn't done it yet. So I got to see a game before I really get high on him.
Supposed to be really good, Drew Aller. We'll see. I'm going to take Penn State this game. It's more for me when Kevin alluded to it. I don't like this West Virginia team at all.
No.
I didn't like them last year. I don't like them this year. I don't think they're very good. I think one of the worst losses in the last 25 years at Oklahoma was when they lost at West Virginia last year. Yeah. Because that was a dog shit team. And OU lost.
They figured out how to lose that one.
I was watching that game. I was like, this is one of the worst Big 12 football teams I've watched, not named Kansas, in years. Yeah. And OU lost that game.
Yep.
And that was the first time I really was like, this isn't going to work. I was pretty down going into that game. And by the end of that game, I was like, this isn't going to work. This is a problem because that was a joke. So I don't like West Virginia at all. I think Penn State's going to have a big year.
Isn't that the first time they beat Oklahoma since they came to the Big 12? I think it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. And OU's beaten decent West Virginia teams.
Oh, good West Virginia teams.
That's the worst. That was one of the
time West Virginia's ever beat Oklahoma. It's the first time they beat them after they joined the Big 12 conference.
Right. And like I said, I've seen worse teams in the Big 12. They've all been named Kansas. But after that, I have never seen a worse team, and we lost. So yep. I got Penn State big in that game. I think they'll dominate it. All right. A couple more here to round out Saturday, and we'll get to Sunday and then, of course, Monday. North Carolina and South Carolina. This is always a hell of a game when these two teams play. It's on the road for North Carolina. It's in South Carolina. Or no, I'm sorry. It's in Charlotte. Another one that's in a neutral field always kind of throws me off. But it's a 2.5-point favorite here in the neutral field. I don't know about this. What do you think about this game?
I think this is one of the best games of the week. I do. Mm-hmm. Again, South Carolina closed really well last year, won a couple of games. Rattler was great the last 2 or 3 games of the season.
Yeah.
Carolina's got a great quarterback, one of the best in the country, but they're sketchy on defense. I think South Carolina is more physical than North Carolina. The game's in Charlotte. I think South Carolina fans will travel extremely well to Charlotte. That's not very far from Columbia. So I don't think this is going to be a home field advantage for the Tar Heels. I'm thinking this is about a 50-50. I don't like North Carolina that well. I'm taking South Carolina to upset them.
I'll go with Gamecocks as well. I think when in doubt, take the better conference in these games. Yes. And I think that's the SEC. I think they'll be able to beat them. I think they just got a little bit more going for them right now than North Carolina, but that's a true toss-up. But, yeah, I'm going to take the underdog in South Carolina. Final game we're going to talk about this team you like a lot, Tulane. They're playing South Alabama. South Alabama, not bad. Tulane 6.5-point favorite there at home. What do you think about the Green Wave?
Yeah, they better not be looking ahead to Mississippi.
Yeah.
That worries me a little bit that they might be looking ahead because you're right. South Alabama is not terrible. And if you're not ready to play, they can beat you. Tulane's one of those teams, they're talented, but they're not super talented. They're very well coached, and they're fundamentally sound. They win games that way. So they better not be looking ahead. I think the line is mysteriously low.
I do too.
I would think that would be in double figures. So
that worries me a little bit.
Yes, me too. Yeah.
South Alabama last year went 10-3. Of course, they're not playing in this. It's a Sun Belt. It's not a great conference, but it's not bad. But 10-3 last season. They got everybody back on offense and on defense. 9 starters back, both sides of the ball. Yep. That could be why you're seeing that number. I lean Tulane, but that is definitely the first line of a million lines we'll have throughout the season where you look at it and you go, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
And you look at it on Saturday night and you go, that's why it didn't make a lot of sense. Like South Alabama just beat them, or lost the last second field goal, something like that.
Absolutely. And I say this every year. I just look for things that jump out at me each week, and that's one of them.
Yep.
And I'm not going to bet it because I got bit too many times last year on this. Yep. And when you say the Sun Belt's not, as good, and they're not, but let's look at the teams. And this team went 10-3 in this league. And you can argue this league was about as good as the one Tulane played in last year. Not quite, but they were pretty good. Coastal Carolina's in that league. Appalachian State is in that league. They're hard to beat. Troy had a great year. They're in that league. Louisiana has been very, very good the last few years. So there's James Madison knocked off some teams, and they're in that league. And Marshall is in that league. So that league's pretty good. And to go 10-3, and if Tulane's looking ahead to the SEC opponent, Ole Miss, next week, they could get ambushed, especially with the expectations as high as they are for the Green Wave.
You look at South Alabama's losses last year. They lost at LSU by 1 point, 32-31. They lost at home against Troy 10-6. And then they did lose their bowl game by double digits, 44-23 to Western Kentucky. So other than the bowl, they were very close even in their losses. And
Troy was really good last year too.
Yep.
So I've just talked myself out of betting Tulane.
Year one, when we did this, I felt like this was a line we would fall for.
Yeah.
I feel like last year we didn't fall for it very often because it's watching college football and betting on it, and then it's covering it professionally are two very different things.
Yep.
And I think, week after week we see these lines. I'm going South Alabama plus that 6.5 here. All right, let's go Sunday. San Jose State. This will be interesting. They went to USC week 1. Now they're at home to take on Oregon State. Surprise team last year. They were pretty solid. Should be decent again. They scored 28 on USC, so it'll be interesting to see what San Jose State can do here. And can they cover this? I don't know. I think they might. What do you think about this one? Rob says San Jose State plus 16.5. I think they might as well.
Rob, I tend to agree with you. I don't know how this team's ranked 18th. I don't get it. I just don't. I know they had a good year last year for them, and they only lost 3 games, so they won 10. So they were really good. They got some people back. You know who their quarterback is?
I do.
The guy at Clemson.
Who sucked.
Oh, what's his name? What was his nickname?
The Big Cinco.
Yeah. He was absolutely terrible at Clemson.
Yeah.
And he's the savior. I mean, he's their starter. Maybe he won't be under as much. I can't pronounce his name, Kevin. Not even going to try. Maybe he won't be under as much pressure and he'll play better. I don't know, but he didn't look like he can play at all to me.
No. So
I think they're overrated. I think they could get surprised as well. I think they win, but I don't know about 16.5.
See, and Kevin kind of thinks this might be a trap. And I get that thinking, but I think Papa Dude laid it out to why I still think San Jose State's the play. If you watched Clemson, and I watched Clemson, I watched a lot of the teams, but I watched Clemson a lot. He was the reason they were shitty the last year.
They were. Yeah, they had everything else.
They did, and especially last year. He was awful. I'm talking about the Big Cinco here, DJ, the new quarterback. I don't know. Like, if you watch Clemson, they would win 17-7 type of games. I mean,
oh yeah.
I don't have a lot of confidence in him. So yeah, I'm with you. I think Oregon State's going to win. I would be pretty surprised if they go into San Jose State and kill them. I'd be surprised if they go anywhere and kill him, though. That's the thing. For me.
The thing, yeah, absolutely. They might, San Jose State might not be very physical. They could just run over them. It's possible.
So there is a theory here, and I've heard this, JL, from other people as well. He thinks that DJ could be better this year. He doesn't think Clemson has been developing talent, especially on the offensive side, for a couple of years. That will be very telling if that happens, because this is what I will tell you. If he goes to Oregon State and he looks like a star, there's big problems at Clemson. Because he was horrific.
He was.
It was bad.
And, Dabo gave him every chance.
Every chance.
He defended him a lot.
And I don't really believe that's going to happen. But if it does, that's going to be a bad sign for Clemson, because this kid couldn't have looked better in a uniform and couldn't have looked worse once the ball was snapped. That's how I would describe it. When you see him walk out on the field, it's like, this is a guy we're going to have to deal with. This looks like a guy. And when the ball snapped, he was awful. So I think it'll be very, very, very interesting to see. I don't know what camp to lean on, because here's the deal. I lean towards listen, this is Clemson. I don't know about that, but I also lean towards, I've seen tape of this kid where he's looked really good. I mean, really good. And not to bring up Oklahoma again, but I saw tape of Davis Bevel before he got to Oklahoma. He looked great. And then last year at Oklahoma, when he was a quarterback, he looked like he couldn't start for our high school here, our local high school. So I don't know. I think it's going to be very interesting. Very interesting. I think it's a really good point, JL. So we'll see.
Well, I'm not really ready to say Clemson can't develop talent. I'm not
either, but if this kid comes out and throws for 350 yards 3 or 4 weeks in a row, I'm ready to think that it could be a big problem.
Well, they could have the wrong scheme for him. That's possible. So we'll see.
That's the other thing. Like, he's not the teams aren't going to be, as quite as tough. But Kevin, I will pause you on that. It's not like he was in the SEC.
No.
Right? He was in the ACC. I saw him play some pretty bad teams and not look that good. So I don't necessarily disagree with the comment. It's going to be a little bit weaker now even, but he didn't look good against bad teams either. So I
remember last year. You remember this game too, Aaron. Syracuse came in there undefeated. Remember? And
yes,
Clemson made a couple of early mistakes and gave them 14 points.
Yeah.
And they completely shut down Clemson's offense. They couldn't do – I thought they were going to get beat. And finally the talent level won out, and they put the other kid in. He didn't really do anything. They got to where they broke a couple of runs, if I remember. I think they ran an interception maybe back for a touchdown too.
Mm-hmm.
Then they win on a late field goal, something like that.
It was like 27-21 game, but they got behind like 21-0, and it was him. Like, he kept turning the ball over.
It's terrible.
And talk about Clemson. We'll talk about him here in just a second. But they put in Kalubnik, and that was a kid that's supposed to be special, and he didn't look that good either. No. Now got a year under his belt. We'll see. All right, let's go to the biggest game of the week. That's gonna be Sunday night. I can't wait for this game. This just screams awesome. LSU and Florida State in Orlando. So it's going to be interesting. The LSU faithful is going to be there, but the game is in Florida. You would think Florida State's got more fans there. We'll see. LSU 2.5-point favorite. This was a classic last year. Two teams we didn't think were that good opened up the season last year. Mm-hmm. And, of course, a missed extra point by LSU. Florida State wins. They're a lot more heavily hyped this year. Number 5, LSU. Number 8, Florida State. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I don't think Florida State may not even been ranked last year going into that game. And LSU, nothing. They'd coming off a horrible year where they fired their coach. So it was kind of a game with two well-known names.
And that's where it ended.
Yeah. And anyway, not this year. Both teams looking to be really good. Florida State had to deal with a hurricane that went through there today. That should be taken care of by Sunday, I think. I don't know how close it got to Tallahassee. I know it was they were going to get some flooding and some rain. I don't know whether they had any damage up there or not. But this morning it was going to hit Tallahassee. They were talking about it. But anyway, I'm not high on Florida State. And again, I'm basing it just in the bowl game against OU. Even though you should have won, but again, the bowl games, you can't really tell who's playing, who's not. It seemed to me like Florida State's main guys were there, and you should have beat them. So, I think it'll be a heck of a game. I like LSU to win it. I just think they're better.
I do. I think they're better. I like LSU quite a bit in this one, honestly. I think last year you kind of saw it. Two teams that were just trying to find themselves, and eventually they did find themselves, both of them, and it was good, solid, kind of set up seasons. They hope. This year, I'm kind of with you. Florida State, they kind of took advantage of a little bit of the schedule kind of softened up for them a little bit, and they were able to win some games. The OU game didn't look good for them. I didn't think OU probably should have beat them, but I'm putting my money on LSU. I think they've got a little bit better players right now. So
I tell you, it's a huge game for LSU too, with the schedule they have. Because they're going to lose a game or two in the SEC. They just are. Their schedule's tough. So it's a huge game for them.
JL definitely disagrees. He thinks it's the break. He thinks Jordan Travis is the breakout star. Mike says he likes FSU here quite a bit. So they've got a lot of hype there on FSU. Kevin, it's like, hey, it needs to be a put up or shut up year. I think the big thing for them, it had been a while since Florida State had even been in the conversation, right?
Sure.
Now they're in the conversation at least. So I think they took a big step. I don't really know if it's a put up or shut up year. I think they need to keep going forward. And that maybe even if they lose this game, they could still do that, right?
Yeah.
They can't slip back to 6-6, 7-5 this year. Yeah. That's for damn sure.
Exactly. And it's one of those games, sometimes you play these early games and you get beat and you come back and win the rest of them and everybody forgets it.
Yeah.
LSU, if they lose this one, they ain't coming back, I don't think, and win the rest of them.
Let's face it, their road to do that is much tougher.
Yeah, where Florida State can lose this one and come back and be okay. So that's the difference in the two leagues, I think, that they play in. Now, Florida State does have to go to Clemson.
Right. So Florida State, LSU, Southern Miss, at Boston College, at Clemson. That's the first 4 games. If you go 3-1 there, you're in good shape. All your goals are out right up there in front of you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what they're going to have to do. I think it's going to be pretty interesting this game.
If LSU loses at Mississippi State, at Mississippi, at Alabama, the Arkansas game is always tough for them. There's just lots of games they can lose.
I mean, when you play in that conference, you could slip up at a lot of different places.
That's right. If I played in that conference, I'd never play a tough non-conference game.
A game like this, it's like, oh boy, that's definitely, yeah. I wouldn't schedule that one.
Nope.
Yeah, it's tough. All right, we got one more. We talked about Clemson. They're only a 13-point favorite on the road against Duke. I don't think that's a great sign for this Clemson team. I don't know what they're going to be like. Like I said, Klubnik now in at quarterback full time here. What are your thoughts on Clemson, and do they go cover this game against Duke?
That jumped out at me too. I thought it would be more than that. Although Duke is very highly regarded in the ACC, a lot of people have them as the 4th best team in the ACC. They had a good year last year, and a lot of people forgot that they did. 13, number 9 team in the country going into Duke, and you're only 13. Doesn't sound right, does it? This ain't basketball. So I don't know. I would think if Clemson's good, they'll win by more than 13. I would be, I just don't. I'll be shocked if Duke is a great team.
I would be too. I would be very shocked. I kind of Duke wasn't bad, but this comment stands out to me. Kevin says here, it's like, if they are a true contender, they will go cover this game.
That's true.
However, I'm not sure that they are.
I'm not either.
I'm just gonna stay away from it. I'm not betting this game
No,
unless I've
I'm
had
not
a great
either.
weekend, and it's just like, yeah, whatever.
I really think they will cover, but everybody's kind of soured on Clemson.
Yeah.
The last couple of years, and they've still won a ton of football games.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether Dabo makes people run the wrong way, or they don't like him. He is a little strange, and I don't know whether he's turned everybody off or not, but they still win an awful lot of games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do, and I think they've fallen. I think they've slipped. They remind me of when OU, let's say about 09, 10, 11, 12, those type of teams at OU. They were good, but you kind of knew after 4 or 5 games, it's like, yeah, we're good, but we're not a national title contender.
Well, how about this? What if we had Trevor Lawrence at quarterback?
Well, that's just
they'd be pretty good.
That's just it.
That's the whole key.
Yeah.
We had Landry Jones, and I hate knocking Landry, but he wasn't a super. He was in the NFL for several years as a backup, which means he wasn't bad, obviously, but he wasn't elite.
And as Kevin says, Clemson 6-6 last 12 as away favorites against the spread, and a lot of that is because of who was the quarterback. Again, to piggyback on what Pop Dude said, it's hard to cover spreads because Clemson's always got a decent spread. It's hard to cover those spreads when you can't score.
That's right.
And they could with Watson and with Lawrence, and now it's like, nah, they're just okay at best at quarterback.
I mean, Trevor Lawrence was in college. He ain't too bad in the pros, but in college, he was tough. He was really good.
Yes, he was. He was fantastic. I thought this comment was interesting. He said, put money on Brian Kelly with extreme caution. The numbers don't really back up the point there. I quickly looked up his against the spread stats for the last 10 years of head coaches or teams he's been the head coach of. He's 14 games over 500 against the spread. So I'm not really sure where that comes from. Also, look at his coaching record.
Yeah.
As much as I hate Brian Kelly, and trust me, I don't know if anybody likes Brian Kelly.
I do.
I mean, he's been pretty good. He's been pretty
he's
good.
A good coach. He's just a weirdo. That's all.
I think he's one of the biggest jerks to ever live. Honestly,
but he can coach, and he might be a jerk to all of us, but he wins too many games to be a jerk to the players.
Well, yeah, but
they got to respect him. They have to play like
they have to, but I don't know how they do.
I don't either, but they do. So his teams are always good.
Mm-hmm.
If your players don't like you at that level, he's got to be doing something right. I don't know what it is.
I don't know either.
I don't know.
I was talking to my buddy Patrick from Visa, and I said, I've never really known a college football coach like him that's been this successful. Right?
Yeah.
Like, most of the college football coaches, if they're kind of hard asses or whatever, they kind of have another side of them where they can go get, they can kind of play up the media and the boosters and the alumni. This guy has none of that. None. He's just an ass.
Nope. But somehow he gets the players to respect him.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Saban. Saban's not exactly a nice guy.
No, but
they are scared to death of him.
Yeah, I don't know. I look at Saban and I don't hate him. Like, I don't look at Saban and go, this guy's a jerk.
He's mellowed a lot. Saban has. He's, I like listening to him. He's pretty good. He really is.
Yeah.
I don't hate him like I used to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. People hate Chip Kelly as well. But again, Chip Kelly's got that extra side that I'm talking about, where if we went to school at UCLA, Kevin, and we went to see Chip Kelly, he'd probably say some things that make us laugh. He'd say some things to get us fired up. Brian Kelly's got none of that. I mean, none of it. Like, if I went to school at LSU, thank God I didn't. If I went to school at LSU, I would just be like, God, I can't stand this guy. Even if I go see him at like a luncheon or whatever they do, I don't know. So, yeah. Anyway.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. All right. That's okay. What are some other games you got?
Well, these are just things kind of jumped out at me a little bit, and I'm sure you guys that got them, throw them out there to us if there's anything on the schedule that we didn't cover because we just covered the top 25. Some other stuff that kind of jumps out at you. I think a really good game in Texas is Texas San Antonio at Houston. And I think that, Texas San Antonio has switched to the American Conference. They've been successful, whatever conference they were in. I think they were in the Sun Belt. No, what were they? They were in the USA, I think.
Yeah, they were Conference USA. Mm-hmm.
And they've jumped to the American. They're highly regarded. Houston is not. And I think this is a very difficult game for San Antonio. I find it hard to believe Houston's terrible, but they're only 2-point favorites. So I've got them in my preseason top 25 because I think they'll be there at the end. They got to win this game. If they're as good as they say they are, they got to go win this game. I think this is really a good game to sit and watch. I think this will be a good one. Yeah. So I'm going to lean on Texas San Antonio to cover that.
Like Kevin said earlier, there's a lot of games each week that they're really for college football diehards, nerds, whatever you want to say, and that is 100% one of them.
Oh, it's a good one.
Yeah.
Another one I think could be bettable, but I probably won't. I'm not high on California at all. They go to North Texas. North Texas has been okay. They did make a coaching change, which could be an issue. But California's a 7-point favorite at North Texas. And I don't know that California should be a 7-point favorite of anybody. So that could be an ambush. North Texas is not bad. And here comes a Pac-12 team into Denton, Texas that doesn't usually have these kind of home games. Even though California's not very good, they're from a big conference. I could see them being ready to play this one. We've been by that stadium. That's a neat place.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I got the guts to bet it.
I can't get on board with that one.
Okay, that's all right. I'm just looking at some. Here is a very interesting game.
Okay.
In the Big Ten, Nebraska is at Minnesota.
Oh, God. Here we go.
No, wait a minute. I'm saying it's interesting. It's really going to be interesting to see if the new coach, who is a great college coach, he's proven it, can make a difference this early. It'll be interesting because Minnesota can be beat. And, this would be a game, if they could win that would really be big for them. Minnesota's a 7-point favorite. I think they should cover. But this, to me, is an interesting game. It's tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. There's worse things to do than watch Nebraska and Minnesota. I think it'll be a pretty good game. I really do. And it's going to be interesting to see. I can't think of the guy's first name. What's his first name?
Matt Rule.
Yeah, Matt. I couldn't think of Matt. I knew his last name. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see. And I can't remember what quarterback they got. Did they get a transfer come in there?
They got Jeff Sims from Georgia Tech.
That's not very impressive. So I guess they decided Casey Thompson wasn't the guy.
I think that's pretty safe to say.
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, okay. I will watch it.
It's an interesting game.
I will watch the game. I'm not going to say it's interesting, but I will watch
it. Well, I think it is. So
okay. All right.
Okay.
Fair. Okay.
Another one. Let's see. Oh, okay. Coastal Carolina.
Okay.
Goes to UCLA.
Okay.
UCLA's a 14.5-point favorite.
That's a lot of points.
Don't have their quarterback from last year.
Mm-hmm.
And Coastal Carolina is pretty damn good. That's a lot of points. I might have to take a shot on that one and go with the whatever they are, Chanticleers,
yeah, Chanticleers. Yeah.
That's an interesting game. I think that's too many points.
Dante Moore, listed quarterback for UCLA, number 3 on Phil Steele's college football ranking. So highly recruited, but true freshman. So
and Carolina's got their guy back.
Yeah,
so
he's good.
He's really good.
And
they are ready for this one. This is huge for them.
Yep.
Huge non-confererence game.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I really think that's an interesting game as well.
Yeah.
To watch. That's Saturday.
Yeah. Yep. That'd be Saturday. I didn't mean to cut you off there, but Grayson McCall, we talked to him a lot last year.
Yeah.
He's got all kinds of experience. They've got all kinds of experience coming back. So we'll
Yeah.
see. I don't hate it. I don't think
I
that's
like
bad
that
at all.
one.
Yeah.
Texas Tech at Wyoming.
Oh, there you go. Good. Talk about
I got to
Mark.
do this for Mark, if he's still around. Wyoming 14-point dog in that game. 14.5, I think it is now. But Tech's supposed to be pretty good. Wyoming's extremely well coached. It is 14. I don't know whether they can hang in there or not. I don't, because Tech is supposed to be pretty decent.
It's just going to depend on how well the defense can hold up. Wyoming will be able to score. I think most teams can. Give me Wyoming.
You're thinking that too?
Give me Wyoming.
I think they can hold it. I think they can hold them close.
I think 14's enough.
Yeah, I do too.
Yep.
And another one that's always fascinating, I don't think you'll find a line on it because it's a team from the division we used to call 1AA, whatever they are now, FCS or whatever they are. Northern Iowa goes to Iowa State.
Oh, good Lord, Northern Iowa.
Yeah, I don't know whether there's a line on that or not.
Let me see if I can probably find. Let me see if they have one listed here. If not, I can probably find it.
But this is a team.
Where is this?
That always plays either Iowa or Iowa State,
and
it's always close. And a lot of times they win. So
I know
if that line is like double digits for Iowa State, I think you might be able to make some bucks on Northern Iowa.
Googling the line.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes
it's got to be. Sometimes these don't come out till Friday or Saturday.
Yeah.
Oh, here you go. Ask if the Action Network got it. No, I don't see a line.
I don't find one either
on it yet. Yeah.
A lot of times they don't set a line on these games.
Yeah, Saturday morning. Sometimes Friday night you can find them on a few of the offbeat sites. I would say that won't be any more than about 7.
Well, then that tells you Iowa State's not very good. If it was 7, I think I might stay with it. But if it gets up for 10, 11, 12, Northern Iowa has a way of just playing them close. These other Iowa schools close.
I think Northern Iowa beats them, honestly, but I don't. I would take them if it's 7.5. I would take Northern Iowa.
Yeah. And then North Dakota State doesn't play anybody big this week. So that's when you always bet North Dakota State on, because they usually play someone like Iowa State or Iowa opening weekend and beat them.
Who do they? Do you know who? Do you know their?
No,
who they play that's big?
I just know I went through every game and they're not playing anybody this weekend.
Let me see.
Probably
real quick. Maybe that is a school we talk about a lot on here. Yeah. Let's see. Ooh, they play
Eastern Washington. That's in that level. Looky there, they don't really have anybody this year.
They do not. They do not have a big Division I game this year.
No, that might be an indication they could be down just a little bit.
Yep. So there you go.
I know.
Okay.
Love to watch them play. They're fun to watch.
Yep. All right. Anything else?
I think that covers it.
Okay. I agree.
Don't have anything.
I think we did well. For sometimes, I mean, we do have Razorback fans, that'll watch this show because of our Oaklawn ties and family ties as well. Western Carolina, I mean, no challenge there, right? But what do you think of the Razorbacks overall?
I like them. I love their quarterback. I love their offense. They got to get better on defense. And, of course, they always have to tackle that SEC schedule.
Yeah.
Their non-conference is not near as tough this year as it was last year. I think their toughest game is BYU, and it is in Fayetteville, and they went to Provo and beat them last year. They've got to stay away from those games they lose that they shouldn't and upset somebody along the way. And as usual, the Texas A&M game is a toughie for them. That's the one that they got to win. Their schedule's doable. It's not easy, obviously. I think they could win 8.
Western Carolina, Kent State, BYU, and Florida International. That's their 4 non-conference games.
Last year they played Cincinnati. BYU, I think they had another decent one in there too. So
Yep.
a little easier this year. Here's the deal. They have a very good chance to win all 4 of those.
Mm-hmm.
Then you just have to go 4-8. No, 4-4 the rest of the year to win 8.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some teams in the SEC they're gonna beat. So I know they've got to go to Alabama, but they got to go to LSU, but they got A&M on a neutral. They got to go to Ole Miss. They got to go to Alabama, and they got to go to Florida.
Yep.
They got to win one of those games.
They do, and I think that A&M game, that's always the big one.
It's the big one. They got to win that.
Yeah.
And then their home SEC games are Mississippi State, Auburn, and Florida, and they got to win all 3 of those. Mm-hmm. So they got a chance because their non-conference schedule is not as difficult as it has been.
We'll see what happens with them. Yeah, they kind of underachieved last year, so we'll see if they can kind of turn it back. We'll talk more about them when they play a relevant game, obviously.
Yeah, it'll be 2 weeks before they do. So,
yeah. All right. Well, that is it. That is all the games for this week. The couple things I wanted to bring up before we go.
Okay.
I watched the documentary on Netflix about the Florida Gators when Urban Meyer was there. I don't get why was a thing. There was really nothing that happened on that show that was interesting.
Was it Tebow maybe?
Yeah, but they didn't really maybe I knew all of it. So none of it was like, oh, that happened. You know what I mean? Because when you're a college football fan,
I don't remember anything controversial going on during his time.
Oh, there was all kinds of he had murderers on the team. I mean, they
did. I don't remember that.
Oh my God.
Well, I don't. So
this is the thing. It was a huge puff piece, but they could have buried that program during that time period. They had all kinds of shit they could have covered, and they really didn't cover any of it. Like Aaron Hernandez was on the team. We're like, yeah, we had a stud. His name was Aaron Hernandez. And that's all they said about it. And then they broke the record for most of the rest. They covered it for 10 minutes. I mean, it was a joke.
Well, what was it about?
Nothing. It was about how great Urban Meyer was and how it really, I mean, it was, I was like, when that came out, I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. We're going to see how many people Aaron Hernandez killed, and they covered it up and all these. No, they never even mentioned that Aaron Hernandez did what he did. Not one time. They just mentioned how good of a tight end he was. I mean, I enjoyed Spikes and Sealer. I think those are good guys who really took leadership roles, and that was kind of cool. But it was it wasn't anything. I mean, it was unbelievable. I will say, and let's see if you guys agree with this. What, Tim Tebow? How weird was that guy? Yeah, he literally whispered through 90% of it. Really? They'd be showing plays and the defensive guys would be like, yeah, I knocked the hell out of this guy here. And we did this. And then you get to Tebow. He's like, and then we threw a pass. And it's like, what's wrong with you? Do I have to turn this up? Yeah. It was bizarre. It was bizarre. You almost couldn't watch it. He was so bizarre in it. He's like, and then Spikes sacked a guy. And it's like, what? Can you talk up? What is your deal? It was so bizarre watching him. And I'm not a hater of Tim Tebow at all, but I came away from that and I was like, that is one weird indiviable.
I think that's pretty much a given.
It was strange. I'm not talking about I don't care about any of his past. I'm talking about right there in that documentary.
Yeah, that's pretty weird.
Why would anybody talk like that? I don't know. I was creeped out by the guy. I wouldn't let the guy alone with somebody. I'll tell you. I shouldn't say that. They did confirm on there. They're like, yeah, I know what he preaches is what he is. He never went out. He never did.
I believe that.
Yeah. It was. I've heard that too. He's kind of a puppet. But I'm going to tell you something, guys. That was a strange. Every time he came on, I was just like, this guy, I don't know what he's trying to do right now. He was like talking in like a whisper. I don't know. It was weird. You need to watch it just to see him. I'm like, what's going on right now? Anyway,
Wow.
I wanted to mention that.
And then you watched Johnny Manziel too, didn't you?
That was great. and that was 100% authentic Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, that was dead on.
That's a kid who just wanted to dick around. I don't think he cared at all that he got the fame that he got until he got it. And then he was like, this is unbelievable. But kid never went to practice. He never watched film. He literally said after he won the Heisman, he literally told the coaches, I'm not coming. Are you kidding? I'm not coming to practice. They said he logged in 0.0 hours of film study in the NFL. I mean,
yeah,
he didn't do anything, but that was really, really good until it got sad. I mean, he got in a bad place. He tried to kill himself basically. So
who was the coach down there?
Kevin Sumlin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Because Kevin said I needed it 5-10 years later, though, when he actually gets cleaned up. Yeah, it's like he's not doing shit with his life, but he's in a good place, it seems, right?
Yeah.
To where now maybe he can go do something. But
scary part about those guys, they live day to day.
Mm-hmm.
They can slip back real easy.
Yep. Well, and so his agent just was like, please don't do anything stupid before this draft. Please. I'm absolutely begging you. They had handlers around him. They were watching him 24/7. He almost got him to the draft without any controversy, but he couldn't. Last couple of days, he screwed up. It's crazy. They basically said the 4th-string quarterback in college was taking the piss test for him for the drugs, and the day before one of the big NFL meetings, he had done all kinds of shit the night before. And so they were chugging water, trying to get it out of his system. I mean, it's crazy. They made up all kinds of, fabricated stories to make him look better than what he was. I mean, it was wild.
So basically they were using him to make money off of him.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to get help, which I don't know whether you could have or not, but that's what happens in these situations. Instead of, hey, okay, you blew it. You're not going to be number 1 draft choice, but it's better than running your life.
Mm-hmm.
They go right ahead and try to get that number 1 status, and he couldn't handle it. He wasn't prepared to be what he had to be in the NFL.
Well, I think down deep, like, he loved the money. Like, that was great.
Oh,
but
sure he did. He
really didn't want the spotlight. And he didn't really want to be that type of person. Like, he just wanted to party. And I mean, I know people like that, and they would probably do the same thing if you put that kind of pressure on him.
Oh, yeah.
He's easygoing, and he just didn't want to deal with all that.
Johnny Football.
Yeah. But if you want to be entertained, definitely watch that. It was good. If you want to be creeped out and kind of just roll your eyes, like, they would get on there and be like, yeah, Florida, why Urban Meyer was successful is they worked so hard. It's like, Jesus Christ. If you believe that, like, this is what every college football program does. It's like, he really pushed them in the summer. It's like, oh yeah, that's real revolutionary. Not that every other program in the country does that, Like, it was incredible how good they made this guy look who's awful. Like, so
yeah.
I don't know. Anyway.
Orb.
Yeah. So, yeah. But anyway, one other thing. If you want to see one of the worst disqualifications maybe ever, watch race 6 at Thistledown today.
Okay.
Yep.
Will do.
The horse was 1-9.
Uh-huh.
He won by about, I don't know the official margin, but he won the race by about 6 lengths, I would say. So what happens was he swung wide, and the jockey just corrected him to get him where he wasn't quite as wide as they ran down the stretch. And he went over and kind of half-ass bumped, a light bump, the horse behind him. And then he just takes off and he draws off by 6 lengths. Now, did he kind of bump him? Maybe, but he won by 6. And it was just crystal clear. He was just way better than that field. And they took him down. So go watch that.
I will.
It's something. I think it was race 6. Let me hold on. It could be race 4. He was the 4 horse. I think he was in the 6th race, but it was, I didn't watch it live, but then I saw that because I handicapped it. I was like, well, that's one that's not going to lose today. And so I made a point to okay, I'm going to watch that. It was a 6th race. It's the 4 horse. So I wanted to see, I wasn't going to watch it. I was going to just look at the results, see if he won. I'm like, holy, he lost? Because I just saw the results. And then I watched the replay. I was like, holy cow, that's crazy. So anyway. All right. Anything else?
Nope. Your horse is running this week. So.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Husker Butch. He's going to stretch out to a mile this weekend in a starter allowance. We'll see. If he handles the distance, he's got a good shot, but I'm kind of skeptical he really wants to go a mile, but we'll see.
Is that Saturday?
That's Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah, Sunday.
All right.
Let's see what happens. All right. Any final thoughts?
I don't have a thing. Ready for football tomorrow night.
All right. Yes, me too.
Yep.
All right, guys. We're going to get off of here. We've had a long one, but we've had a fun one. That's the picks for week 1, guys. Everybody have a good Labor Day weekend. Of course, we've got a lot going on sports-wise with college football. Baseball still going on. And, of course, closing weekend, Saratoga, Del Mar, got the Pacific Classic, and Kentucky Downs as well, if that's your thing. So a lot of stuff going on. All right, guys, have a great holiday weekend, and we'll see you right back here next week.
This is Dudes Who Bet Sports. Dudes Who Bet Sports, it's your favorite show. Dudes Who Bet Sports, where degenerates go. Dudes Who Bet Sports, time to change your approach with Aaron Halterman and his father, the coach. Let's ride.
Well, the Associated Press is full of shit.